The city of Spokane Valley, they're heading into their 2027 budget season following minor deficits entering 2026 and 2025 that they balance throughout those budget processes. But there's one major problem for the city here. They have a gaping hole in the budget in terms of the policing contract that they have with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Now, they've contracted with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office for years. They've always provided policing services, but the cost over time has gone up. And the city says there's some instability in the numbers that they get. So basically, they plug a number into their budget, and then at the end of the year, there's supposed to be this settle and adjust process where they kind of determine what the true costs are, and then they send them another bill. But that could be millions of dollars more than they were planning for, and a lot of time the numbers aren't super accurate. So in this case, the city just received numbers for 2025 and 2026. They haven't received any estimate as to what the contract will cost in 2027. And with it being the largest line item in the budget, they don't know whether to plan for 32 million, 35 million, 38 million dollars. So they're weighing their options if costs exceed revenue. So they ran through a menu of tax and fee increases on Tuesday between the statutory 1% property tax increase that's allowed by state law, raising sales taxes, property taxes, business fees, just a host of options. And the city's financial director, Chesley Walsh, she said, look, I'm not asking you to pass any of these or even saying that we need them at this point. We're just laying out the options in front of you in case a situation does arise in the next few months where we need some more money. But this conversation centered around the sheriff's contract. The city is considering standing up its own police service. There's nothing really concrete there. I mean, they're in talks about it. Former city officials have mentioned it, including Rod Higgins on his way out of office at the end of 2025. But doing so, standing up an independent police service after being an incorporated city relying on Spokane County Sheriff for over 15 years, it would take a bit of capital and some time. It's not something that they can do overnight. If they decide to not renew this contract, which is a long shot, the sheriff's contract before 2027, they would be forced to either contract with a different municipality like the city of Spokane or other neighboring jurisdictions, or stand up a police service as quick as they can. But with a population of over 100,000 people, that's not really feasible. So what they're doing in the meantime is considering these tax and fee increases, whether or not they'll need them. They're trying to fund a public safety director position, which would review the many contracts that they have with Spokane County, in addition to the sheriff's contract. And in addition to all that, they're going to do some studies and kind of just look into, what would it cost for the city of Spokane Valley to stand up an independent police service? And when could they make that happen? Is it feasible? And should they stay with the county or go independent? There's a bit of distrust growing among the city council. Council member Jessica Yeager said earlier this week that it seems like there might be a divorce coming between the city and the county in the next 5 to 10 years. So there's a lot up in the air right now. The city hasn't raised any taxes ahead of 2027 quite yet, but it is looking at its options. The city of Spokane Valley broke off from the city of Spokane in the early 2000s. I believe it was around 2003 or 2004. And ever since, it's been a contract city, meaning that it doesn't offer a lot of its own services. It pays Spokane County and other jurisdictions to provide those services for them. So the city has never had its own police service. It's always contracted those services with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. So it would be starting from scratch here. And maybe it might be cheaper in the long run in terms of operational spending. We don't know. That would just be an assumption at this point. But regardless, it would take a considerable amount of capital to stand up such an independent police service. And we can kind of, for example, look to the city of Spokane. They're breaking away from the county's regional emergency dispatch provider, which provides dispatch services for the valley, the county, and a lot of other neighboring jurisdictions, and the city of Spokane included up until recently. The city kind of had some arguments with the dispatch provider over revenues and whether or not it should be entitled to some of those revenues. And it ultimately ended with the two parting ways. And now the city of Spokane is looking at about $100 million in costs over the next several years to stand up its own dispatch service. Maybe in the long run, those costs will pan out for them. But in the meantime, they're left with a bunch of bills that they hadn't really planned for in advance. if the city of Spokane Valley and the Spokane County Sheriff's Office don't come to agreement, it's hard to say what would happen. Right now, what we're likely to see, and what was discussed earlier this week in the Valley's budget meeting, was that they're going with the assumption that they're going to renew the sheriff's contract for 2027. There's gonna be an agreement next year. It's just what guardrails will be in that agreement to ensure that the Valley gets accurate data on what the cost might be and isn't hit with a big bill years later for services that it didn't know that it was paying for at the time.